In a time where Nintendo is trying its very best to squeeze as much as it can out of nearly decade-old games, and instead of giving everyone Mario Kart 9, they'll just release some nostalgic DLC tracks and call it a day. But since the time of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's jump to the Switch, the kart racing genre has really started to pick up. Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled released in 2019, Team Sonic Racing in 2020, Garfield Kart. Oh boy. I've honestly never played the game, but I've just seen other people try to play it, and the funniest part is the game has a 9 out of 10 user score on Steam. Sorry, I don't know why that's so funny to me. So, the focus of today's video is the Nickelodeon Kart Racers series. More specifically, the third and most recent installment, Slime Speedway. But before we get started, I have to give a massive shout out to Game Mill Entertainment for providing me with a review copy for the PS4 version of the game's Turbo Edition, which includes 2 exclusive characters and additional pit crew members. Thank you guys so much, I really do appreciate it. So now, it's kartin time. First of all, I think it's important to understand that the series didn't exactly have the best start compared to where it is now. Given the first game was universally considered a disaster, the second game was a big step up for sure, but it still couldn't stand up to the competition, with the lack of voice acting and stuff like that. The third game, though, it seems to nail what this series initially set out to do, and that's to be a fun kart racer that takes inspiration from other kart racers, but with a Nicktoony flair that may or may not have anything to do with the game running on the Unreal Engine now, but what's here is downright impressive. The visuals are amazing, the music's a jam, the tutorial starts off as if SpongeBob's practicing for his boating license, with Patrick, Sandy, and Squidward helping him out.
Oh, SpongeBob, it's my turn! My turn to help! And it's not cheating.
This right here is where the fan service goes off the charts. Everything from the track locations, all the way to the voice acting, references, and character design.
Oh my goodness!
What happened to Zim? He's so much more creepy now, and I kinda hate how he looks compared to how he looks in Nick Brawl, which was the perfect transition to 3D for the character. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I'm getting way too off track here. But the rest of the character designs all look really good. Gurr looks spot on, and I love all the random things he spurts out.
It's me! I was the turkey all along! I made it myself!
This is one of the top reasons Invader Zim was such a good show. Jimmy Neutron translates perfectly, as to be expected given his show is the only one to be fully 3D, but it was really good to hear his voice again.
Brain blast! I developed a secret weapon that would make our parents run screaming from the school! I call it Rebellion!
Jenny looks pretty good, not as good as in Nick Brawl, but I'm okay with how she looks here. Although her eyes kinda glitch out when customizing a vehicle, so that's kinda spooky looking. I get it's October, but can we please get this fixed? And that's the thing, the game does have a few problems that the team over at Bamtang are currently looking into. The only one they mentioned was frame rate issues, which, okay, fair enough, I have experienced a few instances of frame rate drops. But I've also come across instances where characters would fall straight through a map after colliding with certain things, getting knocked in weird directions occasionally, as well as not making it clear that you have to get 3 stars in a certain number of cups to unlock Cindy Vortex. Heck, I even heard that Helga was locked behind online play. Now, I have no way to confirm that, but that's a really dumb move if it's true. Pedaling back to the fan service just a bit, starting with the tracks, we've got Atlantis from the SpongeBob special. Atlantis SquarePantis, that is so hard to say. and it somehow looks even better than it did in the show. Heck, we even got the ice cream tanks placing hazardous ice cream on the track.
Ice cream? It shoots ice cream!
Food Korsha, for those who aren't familiar with Invader Zim, is the place Zim got banished to, only to quit being banished to in the very first episode, The Nightmare Begins. This track also gives me major Electron Avenue vibes from CTR Nitro Fueled, and with these new slide type of sections, these slides are kind of automated and also act as shortcuts, but they still require jumping over obstacles to get any sort of slime bonus. And speaking of Nitro Fueled, you remember the Sewer Speedway track? Yeah, this TMNT track pays homage to it with the rolling barrels and such. The Ghost Zone actually shares the same atmosphere as Thunderstruck, minus the storms in favor of focusing on the supernatural themes and portals. It looks pretty cool, but this is also probably the closest we're going to see a fully 3D Danny Phantom game. And the same goes for Jenny, as she also got her own dedicated track with the Goop Zone. And it's actually a location I completely forgot about, because it only appeared in one episode, Teen Team Time. Oh, that's a tongue twister. Overall, every track feels unique in terms of layouts, hazards, and themes. Even the collectible power-ups can affect the layouts even more by placing gnomes or other power-ups along the track. The voice acting is also top-notch, with many of the original VAs reprising their roles, while still maintaining the recasts from Nick Brawl, namely Oblina and Aang. But compared to Nick Brawl, the VAs were given a lot more freedom for voice lines that aren't a constant flow of quote references. Those are still here and they're very much appreciated. It's just this variety feels more balanced and natural, so that's always a nice thing to see. Except for JoJo Siwa, cause she's eerily quiet and it's very concerning. Excuse me, do you need help? So needless to say, all this fan service is enough to make anyone smile, or even get distracted looking for Easter eggs. But you're probably wondering how the game feels to control. That's the main important thing that ties everything together. So if you're someone who comes into this game from CTR or Team Sonic Racing, you've still got your drifting mechanics, more coins make you go faster, and even upgrade certain power-ups like the aforementioned gnomes, the customization features, a simplified trick system with half-pipes, which I don't think I've seen in other kart racers, but it's all here. It just plays a bit differently, and you'll no doubt have to take some time to adjust to it depending on how you go about the game. But this game has a mechanic that makes it stand out from the others, that being the pit crew members, which grant you certain abilities to use on the track, whether they be boosts, extra weapons. They help you out way more than I initially thought they were going to. Some of them are automatically used, while others have to be manually triggered when you fill up this slime meter. It's really satisfying because you'll be swapping between all these abilities constantly. In terms of weapons, you get 3 types of weapons, which are indicated by different colors, and this kind of reminds me of how Jack X handled its weapons setup, often having to choose just one on the fly. And pretty much whatever happens, you just have to accept it, but at least Hans actually prevents you from seeing, unlike Team Sonic Racing's version of it. Then you've got the transforming mechanics from Sonic Racing Transformed between land and water vehicles. And you know what? It's actually pretty fun to pull off some tricks off the top of waves, not gonna lie. But the transition from land to water and vice versa feels a lot smoother than it was in Sonic Racing Transformed. That's right, I said it, despite how weird it sounds. There's 2 vehicle types, karts and bikes, both of which are capable of transforming. I personally preferred bikes due to their ability to handle corners better, having smaller hitboxes, and overall having better speeds, which can be expanded and improved upon with the use of constantly unlocked customization options and pit crew members. Some can be earned by simply playing or by spending in-game coins in the garage. The same goes for characters, and each one has different stats for different playstyles. But the problem is, while CTR and Team Sonic Racing were pretty generous with their in-game currencies, this game feels kinda greedy in comparison, as you're only able to earn about 10 coins per race. And it honestly feels like Mr. Krabs was behind this decision, as you have to do a ton of races just to get one character, which usually costs around 150 to 200 coins each, and that doesn't even count all the other stuff to unlock in the garage. And as a result, if you want anything, it's gonna feel like a grind very fast. But that's where all the different gameplay modes come in. You've got the standard Grand Prix type of cups, which is a series of 4 races to determine the winners. Upon finishing the final one, you get a small cutscene where Zim steals a trophy, and then you get what's known as a true ending? Okay. The audio is so out of sync in these two compared to the very well done intro cutscene, so that's kinda weird. But I love these character interactions though. So after finishing 2 of these, I started to realize it was too easy, so I cranked it up to hard, aka fast, and yeah, it feels more like an appropriate challenge. Challenge mode is where you can complete a number of challenges with pre-selected characters and presets to unlock various pit crew members, customization options, and even new racers, including Squidward, Oblina, Jenny, and a few others. Heck, this is where the Emmy Award-winning Escape from Cluster Prime gets referenced, and that is pretty cool. I just wish these challenges allowed me to pick my own setup, like in Team Sonic Racing or CTR, but that's just me. And finally, the arena modes. You've got the standard demolition mode, basically hit other racers 10 times to eliminate them. Control the golden spatula is basically capture a flag. This one's okay, but it's nearly impossible to tell where the spatula is at any given time. I think they should have really done what CTR did and added an icon above the player rather than an indicator on the minimap. Slime Trials is basically just Splatoon but with vehicles. Cover the most amount of floor in a certain color paint to win. There's not much more to it than that, but I just wish there was an indicator telling me how much has been covered throughout the entire match, rather than just the results screen. And finally, Jelly Spotters. This one's unique because one team are comprised of jellyfish, and their goal is to not get caught and rescue anyone that does, while the other team focuses on catching every member of the jellyfish team. I honestly liked this one, but if you get caught in the first 10 seconds and the AI doesn't push the button, you're gonna get pretty bored and restart. But once you get the net, it's a lot funner to chase these jokers down. There's of course time trials, which are pretty standard for these type of games. There's nothing to stop the timer, just see how fast you can complete free laps. But it's probably for the better because in one of the challenges requires collecting clocks to stall the timer, but the bike's small hitbox makes it very difficult to finish as a result. And by the way, did I mention how good the soundtrack is? But other than a few bugs the game currently has, the unclearness of certain unlockables, the small amount of coins that can be earned at a time, and weapons hitting the player when they're not supposed to, and the lack of a jukebox to listen to the game's soundtrack. I think once all these things are cleared up, this game will go from pretty great to being greater. But with that said, Nickelodeon Kart Racers Free is a fantastic kart racer. I highly recommend picking it up, and hopefully we do get some DLC at some point, cause I would still like to see characters like Tack, El Tigre, or even Dudley Puppy make it in. They're definitely more deserving than the SpongeBob spin-offs, but hey, it is what it is. So that's all I've got to say for this video, but what do you guys think of the game so far? Be sure to leave everything down in the comments section below, and as always, I've been BlueKnight. Thank you guys so much for watching and for the constant support. I truly appreciate it, and I'll see you guys back here next time.